The Fireball Sorc is a staple by now and here to stay going into Season 6. While it takes some practice and skill to clear the highest content on a budget, this build can farm in Tier 7 hordes, the Pit 100 as well as every Tormented Boss in the game, and that's the purpose of the video, the entry point to farm up the powerful Mythics. With that being said, let's get started. So for absolute maximum AoE and fire damage output, I'm using Firebolt and Fireball as the enchantment, with a little bit of cooldown reduction, like one roll on the helm. That's actually plenty, and the build will just run smooth like butter, especially for the Tormented Boss fights. Two rotations max and the Tormented Boss is down, so just a bursty setup. So the hidden tech is the following: losing a lot of damage reduction from not wearing Shaco and or Tyrais. My workaround here is the ever living aspect. I take 25% less damage from crowd controlled or vulnerable enemies, and they are vulnerable and crowd controlled with the click of a button, because I make use of Frost Nova. Very fun ability to use, and can CC and get vulnerable on especially on a boss with click of a button. Therefore I want even 2 charges on this to have it ready when I need it. That's a super important tech here. That's what keeps me alive basically. 2 items, of course. Can't play the build without the gloves and the staff. For the people who don't know, I will read the ability real quick and explain it. The Fireball now bounces as it travels, exploding each time as it hits the ground. And you get mana on explosion, not on hit, on explosion. That's important. So that makes it so the ability is free to cast. I had several pair of gloves, and the mana roll doesn't matter at all. I could say 1 and it would be infinite mana. On the other hand, the staff, nice addition to the build. To have the Fireball shenanigans, you actually only need the gloves. This just enhances this mechanic further. Every third cast of Fireball launches 2 additional projectiles, and they deal a bunch more damage. And it has a nice amount of Fireball skills. It's the build in a nutshell. Other than that, I'm using Ice Armor and having a source of Unstoppable. I'm still running the boots. Just for the flat crit. We sacrifice a lot by using those uniques sometimes, because even a pair of boots like this would be really nice for the cooldown reduction, tempering, and to add even more crowd control to the build, to all those fireball explodes. For the jewelry, I have the fireball aspect on the amulet, of course, for insane damage. For temperings, I went with Frost Nova cooldown reduction. I have that on the amulet. On the chest piece. The stats on here, pretty generic, crit. For the second ring here, elements, when this kicks in, really big damage numbers. Even with the budget gear. And not maxed out glass cannon, more about that in a skill tree. I still see 2 to 4 billion crits. Depending on what cooldowns are on, but yeah, crazy damage output even with budget gear. For the stats here, I have almost 900 crit damage without buff food. Maxed out resistances, of course. And armor will be eventually kept when I get a better armor roll here and or upgrade it further in the pit. Then I will easily sit at 9200. The skill tree in order to make this work is the following. I have 2 points into Firebolt. Don't mind the rank here. This is from plus skills from my pants. Only 2 in here to unlock Fireball. Absolutely max this out. It's rank 16 right now, even with the low bob gear. Destructive Fireball, so crit damage is increased by 20 and even up to 30 when hitting at least 3 enemies. And yeah, unless it's like a single boss, it always hits 3 enemies. Good multiplier here. On Devastation to unlock Elemental Dominance. I have nothing into Glass Cannon. I feel like the plus skills on my amulet are plenty. It's just me. 1 into Elemental Attunement, just to have a chance to get the buff. 1 into Teleport, of course, into Shimmering Teleport for the DR. And yeah, the most important one is probably Frost Nova. I have 5 out of 5 here. And I went into Mystical Frost Nova to get a nice vulnerability against bosses in those Tormented Boss fights. 1 into Ice Armor, that's my source of Unstoppable, of course, thanks to the aspect on the gear. Maxing out those 3. Maxing out Conjuration Mastery. Even though I only run a 1 Conjuration, it's just this one moment when the boss fight starts. And you just get this burst. So still worth using, especially against the Tormented bosses. That's where this build really shines. 3 into Icy Veil to have better uptime for Ice Armor. Maxing out the fire stuff here for the damage. 1 into Fiery Surge and 3 into Soulfire. Warmth. This is more for, as I said, it's a setup against bosses. It's not that important to heal if the boss fight takes like a few seconds and you just nuke them. Ultimate here, Unstable Currents. We have this nice damage output. The burst is insane by just getting 25 attack speed with the click of a button. Really good against bosses. And for the Keystone passive, Asus Ferocity. The Paragon board here for a minute. It pretty much is the same as in the Endgame variant. But even though this is a budget build, I think it's pretty important to have the glyphs maxed out, all at level 21. The build is really good for Nightmare Dungeons, so maxing those took not even one game sitting, not even evening. So just wanted to mention that as well. Like, don't get it twisted. I would absolutely recommend maxing out the glyphs for the most especially for the most difficult content. You maybe can get away farming Tormented bosses with only the range unlocked, but for like tier 7, which is already kinda iffy, it's doable, but it's still difficult. Absolutely mandatory to max out the glyphs. Of course, there will be a planner attached. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Maybe as a conclusion for the build and for this video, it's absolutely a staple going forward in Diablo 4. They will not nerf this or whatsoever. Like the Fireball Sword is a staple now, it's here to stay. It will be one of the most popular starter builds. Like, not only if you want to have an endgame Fireball Sword, but just in general. Just one of the best season starters going forward into Season 6. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.